Hello everybody, Necromancer Kids here once again. This time with a series that I hope to delve into every now and then, where I randomly select Yu-Gi-Oh cards in GOAT format through a randomizer, and I talk a little bit about them, whether it's discussing their applications in the meta, some jank decks that you could make using them, as well as appearances in the anime and random trivia that I happen to know about them. The first card that I randomly selected for this series is the Rock Spirit, which is a level 4 Rock Earth with 1700 attack, 1000 defense. It can't be normal summoned or set, but you could special summon it by banishing one Earth monster from your graveyard, and it has the effect that it gains 300 attack during your opponent's battle phase only. So, as far as this card goes, it usually is favored less than another card, which is Gigantes, which is pretty much the same thing, except it has 1900 attack and 1300 defense. And if it's destroyed by battle, you destroy all spells and traps on the field. Because that 1900 attack on offense is pretty big, the only real upside to the Rock Spirit over it is you won't potentially lose your own spells and traps. And as well, you can wall things like Blade Knight or a breaker with a counter on it on your opponent's turn, so they can't end up getting aggressive back against you. But otherwise, the more aggressive card is usually Gigantes, which is why people prefer it, because you're really only playing this in either maybe a aggressive deck like Earth Aggro, which is where it actually won a first place thanks to Rognark. Sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, but I will show the deck on the screen here, which it was used alongside Gigantes in that deck. As well, I have seen some Monarch decks that use the Rock Spirit, but usually again, if they do that, they prefer Gigantes instead. But potentially being able to wall the opponent with that extra 100 attack does sort of lend itself more to a slower deck like a Monarch deck. And another deck that I've seen it in is a Mega Rock Dragon Reasoning Gate deck, where you use Reasoning or Monster Gate to essentially mill Rock Spirit into the graveyard because it won't be summoned by those effects. And then you banish it from Mega Rock Dragon and make it really huge. And again, you also play Gigantes in that deck anyway. But those are the only applications that I've seen for it. You're free, of course, to discuss your own applications that you've seen in the comment section below. Some trivia about it is that it is part of what you would call in Magic the Gathering a cycle of cards, alongside Spirit of Flames, Garuda the Wind Spirit, and Aqua Spirit, which are the four attributes, four earthly attributes as I like to call them, besides dark and light. Interestingly as well, it does in a way have a counterpart in Sylpheed, which is a wind fairy 1700-700 that you can banish a wind monster, summon it. One interesting bit of trivia that most people probably don't know about, but maybe they do, is that Yugi actually used the Rock Spirit in the anime, and when he summoned it, he immediately tributed it for Des Vostgolf, which I hope that I pronounced that name correctly. It used to be one of my favorite cards when I was a little kid, by the way. I really, really, really wanted it, but when I was able to get it from a promo, it wasn't in the magazine, so I couldn't get it, and I was very disappointed. But yeah, unfortunately, it didn't see any real use besides as tribute fodder for a monster that's admittedly very lackluster, but I still like it. It was also used in the GX anime by Amneal, but again, it was just used as fodder for another card, so unfortunately, we didn't get to see it do any real damage. And then next up is the other card that I randomly rolled, for this first segment of the series, which is Gaia the Dragon Champion. A level 7 Dragon Wind with 2600 attack, 2100 defense. And it's weird that it is wind, just because Curse of Dragon and Gaia the Fierce Knight are earth and dark. So while it kind of makes sense because it's flying, why wouldn't Curse of Dragon then be wind? It's also notable here that it has 2600 attack, 2100 defense, and Gaia the Fierce Knight, which is one of its materials, as of course it's a fusion, has 2300 attack, 2100 defense. So if you fusion summon this, you're only gaining 300 attack. So that is really painful to fusion summon this. Unfortunately, there isn't much application for this in Go format because pretty much everything else that you could summon is going to have higher attack, and the materials themselves aren't very useful. The only real maybe way that you could say that it's better in any way is that you can use Dark Factory of Mass Production to bring back both of its materials, but it's really not worth it. Something interesting though is that it does have a support card in Go format by the name of Spiral Spear Strike, which is a continuous spell that says if Gaia the Fierce Knight, Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight, or Gaia the Dragon Champion you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict battle damage to your opponent. And the main thing that we're interested in here is if Gaia the Dragon Champion inflicts battle damage with this effect, so not even if it just inflicts damage period, draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. It's really interesting. So you could sort of build a weird graveyard strategy here, or maybe make some sort of strategy where you're trying to gain advantage off of Gaia the Dragon Champion, which the only real application, besides trying to hard summon it, which I wouldn't really recommend, or maybe using Fusion Gate, I guess you could make some sort of weird turbo deck, and the Spiral Spear Strike does work for Gaia the Fierce Knight as well, but you can use Fusilier Dragon, the dual mode beast, which can be normal summoner set without attribute and is level 7, with Metamorphosis to bring out Gaia the Dragon Champion. And from there, get off the effect of Spiral Spear Strike. So that would be kind of interesting to see a deck sort of based around that. As far as trivia goes for Gaia the Dragon Champion, it, of course, is one of Yugi's main monsters, and he uses it in a lot of duels. Probably one of the most infamous moments where it's used is when it's loaded into Catapult Turtle's catapult and shot at the flotation ring of Dark Castle. And as well, you see it used against Weevil pretty early on to try to take out the Cocoon of Evolution, but then he has to try to destroy the Great Moth that is summoned after he attacks it. Something notable, I suppose, about this, besides the fact that it's got some counterparts in the newer game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, is that apparently this artwork is taken pretty much directly, besides the color and everything, from one of the panels in the manga. I think this is a really iconic pose that you see here, and even though it's not the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I still think it's a really cool card. Let me know what you guys think about this series and about these cards, other applications you've seen, maybe even in other formats, and if you'd like to hear more random cards for me to talk about. Thank you very much and have a good one.